I have sandpaper cut little pieces from 1-inch rolls, and I have it all the way from 100 grit up to 600 grit. This is smooth enough. I'm not going to bother with 100 or 120. I may start at 150 and just to give it a initial smoothing, and then I'll just work my way up through the various grits until I get to the 600, and then I have a synthetic steel wool of about an 800 grit that I'll finish that up with, and then from there I'll take it to the buffer and buff out for the final finish. Okay, and I always dust it off in between grits. That gets off any grit that might be left behind from the sandpaper. Okay, now I've got it sanded up through 400 grit. I'm going to do a 600, and then I got the artificial steel wool of equivalent to 800, and that'll be all the sanding we'll need to do on this part of it. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is to remove the tailstock and then clean up the bottom. A piece of wood won't have any support anymore on the mandrel, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some blue painter's tape and I'm going to tape it on there while there's still pressure on it, and that'll hold it enough to finish working on the bottom part of it. Now I'm going to re-engage my tool rest here, and using a skew chisel I'm going to just smooth out that bottom, and I'm going to actually undercut it a little bit so it's concave in towards the center, and what that'll do is it'll ensure that when the salt shaker sits down, it'll sit nice and flat, so it won't have a high spot in the center and wobble around like that. Okay, I put a little CA glue on there and use an accelerator this time so we don't have to wait too long for it to dry. And I'll scrape it one more time, and then I might put a few little rings in there just for interest, and then sand it down. That helps to get in those little grooves I cut. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lacquer finish on there, and I'll take the tape off. The finish I'm going to put on there is a Mylan's cellulose sanding sealer, and it's a lacquer base, so it dries very quickly, and it'll bring out the grain and seal this wood all the way around and get it all ready for the buffing process, which we'll do later. And you can see it gives it a nice shine and really brings out that grain. And look at that nice spalting. That's going to make a real attractive salt shaker.